the Utility Fund Work Session of the Mayor and Council for the Town of Berlin. It is Monday, April 21st, 2025. So we'll begin with an opening statement from myself, Mayor Zach Tyndall. With the Utility Fund, I'm taking the same thing. The word will be interchangeable this evening. Resources and Tim Lawrence for Electric Utility Department. I know that there's a lot that goes into the preparation of these budgets. They're just as big, if not bigger, than the general fund budget. So there's a lot of work that goes into this. Natalie, I also want to thank you and Melissa for the work that you've done on it and your entire finance team. Councilmember Nur and Orris attended the Utility Fund Work Session meeting, or the Utility Fund staff meetings with all of us, and I appreciate your help in that process.
Good times.
Yes, it is. A lot to cover, but good times. With that, before us this evening, we'll cover water, sewer, and stormwater and water resources, and we'll cover electric, and that includes various ways that we generate and then distribute the electric. Also, the total budgets that we'll discuss this evening are $22.7 million, with electric being about $8.8 million, water about $5.7 million, sewer about $7.2 million, and stormwater, our baby fund, just over $1 million, which I think is a record for this year, right? Has it been over $1 million? I don't think so.
It had, when we had grants in the past, it was over that.
That's so sweet. I'd be happy to be the baby.
I know, it's our little baby fund. So with that, Mary, I missed you the last time, so do you want to throw in on any
I
operational
am
stuff?
not prepared this evening.
Great report, Mary. We'll go right into the water. Well, do you want to do water or electric? Because electric's at the top.
Yeah, that's fine.
Water goes first, electric
Okay.
goes on third.
What page?
Tim, you're at the top of the document, but at the bottom of the
Use the coin
meeting.
toss.
That's normal.
All right. So
Oh,
we'll start with the Water Resources Department, and Natalie, if you don't mind giving us an overview of the water revenues.
so before we get to the great details, I want to point out again, as I mentioned at the general fund, the process was challenging and complicated this particular fiscal 26 year due to several cost increases for equipment and in general for chemicals in the water and services provided by the town. There are many capital projects that are carried from fiscal 25 to fiscal 26 because they're not finished. We had a great year when we had received ARPA grants. They're going down to be fully expensed. April the 30th, I will report in our status to the federal agencies to comply with all that. We have some leftovers from ARPA grant, and we're continue doing the projects that are funded by that. Also, we have several new projects. Unfortunately, you will see that there are a lot of advancement from the reserves, and I just want to point out that it is not good practice to advance reserves constantly to fund the projects. We have to consider the reserve for capital for water and sewer infrastructure since it's aging so rapidly, and recently we acquired a new project that is mandated for us to perform is a lead replacement services and inventory that requires a lot of attention from Water Resources Department. Also, we will be acquiring loans/grants to accommodate the completion of those projects, so it's a lot involved in that. Going to the water fund revenues on the report, it's page 11. Of course, all of that projections, and I can tell you right now, normally I would be more conservative for every single fund, but because the expenses and the greatness of the expenses, I am projecting the revenues really close to what they are at the completion of fiscal 24 audited numbers and also projections for fiscal 25 as we stand right now. Special connection fees is our special EDU connection fees. Those fees are allocated for future capital projects, and we also in the sewer fund accommodated those services for the bonds and the loans that we have in place. For fiscal 26, for the new loan that we will be acquiring for the lead services, that service is an estimate and will be coming out from the special connection revenue. We estimating to receive $50 EDUs. Water fund carries $4,425 out of the total amount, and that's estimated to be at $221,250. For special connection, I want to mention, if you look at the total fund activity for '25, we only collected $26,000. It is not a good indicator, but we had several reasons why it's not happening. Those fees are set aside, as I mentioned a minute ago, for capital projects and future debt services. Several years ago, Mayor and Council has passed and adopted a capital service fee that is been billed and collected. The purpose of that was to set aside a great amount of funds for future capital projects, especially for the capital projects that are necessarily and mandated. Unfortunately, we've been utilizing the service fees, the capital service fees, and allocating them pretty much every single budget year to support the project that needed to be completed. We estimate to receive $134,000 for the water services. We are on the path to receive that full amount. It's basically based on how many accounts we bill for the fees. Water services, an estimated amount of $800,000. I'm placing a slight increase, hoping for the new development and the commercial properties will come in, and so also the new AMI infrastructure accuracy will help us to generate additional revenue, not just billing extra, but billing correctly. Some people see increase, some people see decrease, so it's an accurate billing. Ready to serve fees of $21,000, there is no change. Service and material, this amount consists of everything that water services provide outside of normal water sales. So if they serve a new development and they charge for installation equipment, those numbers are budgeted in there. We have a small amount of $68,000 coming to us from the water tower rent, and those are satellite antennas that placed on the top of the water tower.
So Natalie, regarding that, just a couple of years ago, we were collecting 83 and 80,000. Why the decrease?
I'm sorry, you're referring to 83.
Water tower rent. So in 23 fiscal year, it was 80,000. 83.
There was a merge between the two mobile services together. So we had 3 contracts and then it became 2.
So our income got cut.
Yeah, the one company bought another one, I don't remember the names, but it was like Mobile, AT&T, and something else, and then they become into one. So they eliminate one of the contracts.
Because they eliminated a number of their antennas.
Equipment too. Yeah, they removed the equipment as well.
Don't we have a built-in escalator though for the rent?
Yes, there is a % built in for each year, but it's a small
Yeah,
percentage.
I know it's more than, I probably have a built-in escalator because it helps.
Okay, thanks.
Interest earned is basically the amount, the cash in the bank earning the interest, and there's a slight increase on that. Interest on delinquent accounts, it's for obvious reasons. There is a small increase for build-in. We just see in general that we're having challenges or difficulties collecting the revenues from people paying their bills. MDE grant, this grant is a combination, or I want to say a kind of combo between loan grant, you want to call it together. So there will be potentially in the future a principal forgiveness, but we will have to place a principal interest, not principal, interest payments for that. This is all for a lead service replacement, and we had the same amount of fiscal 25 budget, so we just carried forward since the project's still ongoing.
Now, with that side, I know we were talking about running to the foundation and then, well, we technically go to the meter and then we may have to go to the meter back to the foundation of the home. Touch base with Sarah tomorrow because somebody called the office today about a grant that might be able to help us with that. So if we have an idea of the number of customers, we might be able to assist with that cost of running back to them.
Yeah.
We'll see, but
And I just want to say, it's been said before, but it is worth remembering, these are mandated things that we have got to accomplish regardless of potential funding from the outside.
And not to get off topic too, I'd like to bring up that hopefully within the next month or May or June, we would like to have a town hall meeting with the streets that are going to be affected, just to try to bring people up to awareness and get them to sign the easements. Just to bring everybody to speed, if we do not go all the way to the tie-in point where NDE says to go, we cannot replace their service even from the main to the meter. They will not pay for none of it. So we have to be careful and we have to explain that to people. So I talked to Mary and we'd like to have a town hall meeting again, just but with the residents on them streets. We would hand out door flyers to try to get people to attend. Because it would help us to get all of our stuff done also for helping people understand what our plans are to do also.
thank you.
Next line item is contribution reserve. Contribution from reserve, a combination of what we are advancing from reserve for fiscal '26, or if it's a carry forward item from fiscal '25. That service, that is an estimate number. It might not come to 50,000. I'm just placing that against to potentially future loans for the lead service replacement, and it will be funded from the EDU or special connections. There is a Ford 250 truck, which is a carry forward. I'm sorry, not a carry forward. It's a new item, and it will be funded by the capital fee. Hydrant replacement is a carry forward item from fiscal '25. Over 150,000 lead line replacement projects. The combination of all of them basically carry forward from fiscal '25. Powelton Avenue Well Building number one is the ARPA, a small amount of 177 what was left from previous allocation, and we also have 164,000 from the capital fees coming to that project. Smart meters water project, it's ARPA funded amount 185, and I was rounding the numbers to the nearest, so it could be a variance when we complete the project, but that's what's left from the ARPA towards the smart meters. So backtrack, Jimmy said, talk about backtrack in details. Splitting between the two. Water fund will carry half and the sewer fund will carry half. This piece of equipment was discussed for past several years, more than several years. Water services is in great need for that. We were not able to place an order even during the COVID. The price went up tremendously for the past couple of years. Now, we are placing that because it's a must-have item for water services. 325,000, total of 650. Sounds like a small amount, but if we don't proceed with that, we're not sure if we're even going to touch that amount for next year. So what we're planning to do is to actually create a purchase order out of fiscal '25. Let Jamie order the truck and hold on with the payment till fiscal '26 potentially. But if it comes to, if he can lock the price as of right now and get a savings on that purchase, then we will have to advance capital fees from the reserve and pay for that truck. Do you want to add anything else?
We bought the truck in 2009. We paid $270,000 for the same truck that we're kind of getting now. And right now, I just got a quote today, it was $623,975. VACCOM recommends 10-year life expectancy. We've got 16 out of ours. We were trying to put some money away starting in about 2015, and we just never were able to. So we would like to purchase it now, or write a PO now, so we can encumber it in 26. But the reason being is if the tariffs hit I think it's next week or May 1st, we will not be able to purchase the truck because it'll be out of our budget.
So in that scenario, does this current back work, and is it in fine shape?
It's starting to cost us money. It's starting to nickel and dime us. So that's why we were looking at upgrading to, pretty much the same truck, just all newer equipment.
No, I was curious how difficult the pickle would be if the tariff sends the price higher.
And he's talking anywhere between 10 and 15%.
Yeah.
They're shooting for 10, but they're unsure.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's an interesting discussion to have, because if the tariff is short-term, I mean, it's guessing at this point, so you know for
It's all
sure.
speculative.
Yeah.
It really is, and I will say that I have heard some cautionary tales about language being added to purchase contracts, because even companies are not willing to lock, they're not willing to guarantee whatever the price that they give you today is going to be the price
Oh.
in 6 weeks or 6 months or a year when they actually deliver the piece, which makes it very,
Do we
very
think that could be
difficult,
the
but
case?
unfortunately, it's nothing that we can control.
Do we think that could be the possibility now?
It could be,
Now.
yeah.
Now, the other point that I think we discussed in the internal meetings is that it's being split half, but really, the public should know that it should be split a third, because it is used across water, sewer, and stormwater. It's just unfortunate that the stormwater fund can't absorb any of that. So it is being split by water and sewer.
Well, I guess, yes, but to my opinion, it should be totally placed under sewer fund, because mostly greatly is utilized by the sewer fund by
The
being.
primary
yeah,
function.
Primary function, we're just split in between, and unfortunately sewer cannot place that cost under the fund.
So this is clear on this. So it sounds like, well, is the plan to try and place that order prior to May 1st?
Yes.
And
They asked for either a letter of intent, and Ally just recommended just writing them a 2025 PO, and then one covered into 26. And by my understanding, he said if we give them a PO, we will be locked in for the truck.
I think we should put that on for the next mayor and council meeting, because it should be action, right?
Yes, yeah, you cannot action it at this meeting, but it would require.
that's kind of what I was getting at too, I think.
See what you can get from them as far as.
I got the quote and everything.
You have the quote.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say give it to Laura and let's get it on the agenda.
Yeah.
Let's keep rolling.
Couple of more items is a valve replacement on Baker West in Washington, and then also a water capacity plan as a carry forward. Item for fiscal 26 is not completed currently. So overall, if you look at the water fund balance as the budgeted balance and take away the 2.1, 2.2 almost in loan/grant combination, and also 2.2 out of the contribution from reserve, which combination of carry forward and new items, the balance of the budget is not as 5.7.
So now, I want to just understand the debt service for EDU reserve, that's being used for, at the top right here, that's being used for any interest that's due on the ME.
We will be closing on task number 1, which is the inventory, and task number 2 is an actual replacement. And task number 3, loan, is not related to the lead service, but it's adjacent to service. Those 3 tasks will carry a loan amounts, and they will require an interest payment.
Right. And that's how we're going to kind of buffer that amount in this upcoming budget.
Right.
And then, I think we talked about this in the internal staff meeting, the fund balance, if we can't close with 50 EDUs as projected this year, can still carry debt service.
The water part can,
Right.
yes.
Sewer,
The water part has a good balance in the EDU because we split, the higher portion goes to the sewer, the
Right.
smaller to water. As of right now, water does not carry any debt.
okay, but overall, water and sewer, if we close under the 50,
Then
let's
we-
say we have another rough year.
We have to find another revenue source to pay the debt.
So we will have a deficit in that account.
Right.
That's not good. Can you let us know about what that amount would look like if we kept with this year's EDU sales?
Okay.
I think that we need to have that front and center. All right. Any other questions regarding the water fund revenues? Okay, thank you both. Page 13, water admin. You don't need to cover, I know that you know this, but we don't have to cover any like the fringe or anything like that that Kelsey discussed at the general fund meeting.
I mean, if we can just cover all the funds, including all utility funds in general for the personnel costs, just as a reminder to the public, maybe somebody's not watching. Kelsey, do you want to do like a small overview for the step, COLA, and insurance? So we will apply that to every single department under the funds.
So the budget for all of the funds includes a 2.5% pay increase for a step, and then a 2% pay increase for a COLA, cost of living. It also includes, let's see, yeah, the one-time payment of $300. We did a 10% increase on healthcare, and I should have numbers tomorrow. We have a meeting to go through the final numbers, so I should have something to you guys at our next council meeting. I'll have figures. And then we included 55% utilization of the HRA. Workers' comp, we did 8%, but you will see on here that that varies a lot by department. We were working off of a spreadsheet that's just been in place for a while, but what we're trying to do is actually get it to calculate properly with how workers' comp calculates it. Obviously, police department's percentages are higher. It depends on the type of work each person does. Clerical is usually a lower workers' comp percent rate. So I'm trying to get them to equal out. So you will see larger jumps in some areas and smaller jumps in others. And then liability insurance, I had indicated 15%. I'm expecting that to come in lower, but I don't have those numbers yet. So that should be about everything. No. Missing anything there? Ask any questions?
So those adjustments, if they come under budget, so the remainder funds will go into what, contingency?
For each fund,
For each
yes.
fund.
It would be to contingency. Also, I want to state that overhead allocation, which is the general fund participation, or utility funds participating in repaying back general fund for the services that are provided by elected officials, administration, finance, and planning department, will change as well because the fund balance will change. So it's not necessarily the full amount of savings will go to contingency, it would be a combination of. Right now, all the funds, as of right now, this budget report is presented, have zero contingency.
And the thing is that as we get closer to introduction, the costs will get more clear.
Yeah.
So then we'll have a better sense of kind of where we're at.
Yeah, I should have workers' comp soon as well. I was told I have it in a week, about a week ago, so I'm expecting it sometime in the next couple days. So I should have those figures as well as health insurance, hopefully all by the end of the week. So then it's just leaving us with liability insurance. So
We're doing tax rate on Monday.
Yeah.
Introduction.
Yes, introduction.
And I do have, like I said, I have one digital coming out on Monday for the work session. It'll be the first thing up, just a quick presentation to run through the figures and then see how you guys want to move forward with that. So,
Care First still looking good?
yeah, that's where we're, that's what we're looking at. So I'll know more tomorrow.
Thank you.
So not to beat the drama game, but
We get good news, now what are we?
I'm sorry, but I'm trying to reinstate that it's very important for us to think about financial sustainability of the funds, especially the utility funds. We have not closed the budgets in the past without having the contingency. Right now, we're looking at the report in front of us, and I can tell you right now, none of the numbers are estimated on the high end, and none of the revenues that in fiscal 26 are being very conservative. They're not. They're to the point. And having a zero contingency, it gives me
Heartburn?
not exactly, but a concern in case what if. I will give example right now. A couple of years ago, we had a failure at the station for major equipment. And Tim came in my office and said, I need to fix it now, what do I do? He luckily had $60,000 in a contingency, and we came for budget amendment, we advanced that, and we were able to move forward. So we don't have that leverage right now for any of the funds.
Now with that, do you have a recommendation there or?
Setting up a capital replacement or emergency recovery fund or reserve under each fund. Just like we created for general fund, we have to create it for each utility funds.
And we're getting ready to switch over to like a cost per gallon for billing for water and sewer. Is there a way to attach something like that when we redo the structuring of the fees that we
Not
factor that in?
restructuring, it would need to be as a total evaluation or study done.
Okay. And with that, I think that would be the time that we would add such a thing.
That would be for the water services, but electric will have to go through the whole entire
Rate
study, rate study, tariff acceptance, hearing at the Public Service Commission to do that.
Now, I think that I've seen something about Worcester County moving on, what is it, water, sewer, does anybody?
They increased the rates
$32 per quarter. So everybody's in up in arms, but that's $32 for every 3 months. So it's $10 and almost $11 a month increase.
And our capital fee is what?
Help me, I almost in the capital.
1950 or something a month. But that, I mean,
So that's water and sewer.
they had actually reached out to me and asked us what we did and how we made it out, and I told them what ours was, and he pretty much, the gentleman that reached out to me kind of said that they still probably won't close with a balanced budget. Increasing their 30. Tim's seen it, I've seen it, I'm sure everybody has, but chemicals, I used to pay bare minimum. Chemicals and the new rules and regulations for testing have gone through the roof. I know people hear about it all the time, but you used to pay $1 a gallon for sodium hypochlorite. Now it's $3.85. Caustic soda used to be $2.50 a gallon. We're paying $5.89 a gallon.
In what period of time?
4 years. I mean, I'm not trying to, but I mean, everything else is going up, but I'm still working on the same 2020 budget kind of income.
So now, looking at this, like, if we take a look at the revenue side of things and we're looking at contributions from reserve, if we really wanted to kind of figure out what the missing amount here was to break this even without pulling from reserves, we would take our 2.2 as a contribution from reserve, and we could subtract out, let me see here,
You would subtract out your ARPA funded projects,
and the lead line replacement, correct?
correct?
So we would take out the 900, we'd take out the 177.
And 164?
Well, the lead line
Wow.
replacements, it's agree to disagree, because we got lucky that we've been approved to draw the loans from state of Maryland. Even though we're gonna carry the cost of it for the bond advisement and everything else, but we are all lucky to have those loans. If we were not approved for those loans, that $2.2 million, we have to come out with those monies to finish the project, whether we want it or not, we have to.
Yeah, it's not realistic to take that.
No, I'm not saying to
There's
take
no
it.
getting around it.
I'm not saying to take anything out.
No, I
I'm
understand.
saying that if you want to get a holistic picture of kind of where the hole is
I see what you're saying.
in the budget,
Then the realistic picture should be, we should have a 5, 7, and 10-year capital plan study done for each fund.
okay,
And replacement, cost of replacement placed with the increase of,
we don't have that in this
we
budget.
don't have that in this budget.
Can we put it in this budget? I mean, it's the only way we're ever.
She's already ready to kill me, so you.
But I mean, Natalie, next year,
I
I mean, are you expecting next year to come here with a more favorable outcome?
No,
Then
next
how are we
year's
gonna
gonna be
fix it?
tougher, exactly,
You know what I
that's exactly what I'm trying to say. We have to have a plan, and capital plan at least 5 years, and the equipment and capital project replacement have to be with the increase of cost of living and increase on service. Then we should know what are we facing next year and how much money we need to have in the capital replacement reserve for all of the funds. I'm not talking about
Right,
electric right
I'm
now.
saying just
It's-
water resources.
Yeah, all water resources. Yeah, that's the ideally, or at least a good start.
How much do you think that study would cost?
Don't look at me.
50?
Don't
I
look-
mean, we have a capacity plan quoted or estimated 30, and that's more expensive than capacity.
Is it possible to lump the two with the same vendor?
I can't answer that at this point. I mean, possibly.
Can we look at some of that before introduction? Because if we're just gonna have a more unfavorable outcome next year, and we're projecting that already, we've got an EDU fund that's kind of teetering in trouble territory, in my opinion. How do we, if we can't get the study done, we're not gonna be in a better spot next year.
Okay, I agree with you.
How important is the water capacity plan?
It's very important.
Explain that to me.
So MDE's requiring to have some of this done. That's also going along with, we have to redo our permit for our fourth well that we're getting ready to drill, so we had to put it in there because our water capacity and our wastewater capacity are not even compatible, so we have to get, it's a lot of legal fees involved in that.
I would subtract, oh, go ahead.
I was just thinking about the practicality of having both of these done at the same time, whether that's even feasible,
Financially, or just period?
both logistically and financially.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we can talk to
Yeah, we should find out.
EA,
Yeah.
DBF, and see where we can stand, or combine those together.
Maybe we can save some money.
And if maybe we can pull those together. If we're, I know for sure it's going to be about 30 because we combine this all together. What, you would be okay with advancing more from,
I think we have to.
Reserves?
I mean, we
We
don't
have
have a
to.
choice.
There's no-
We don't really have a choice in this unless somebody internally has this knowledge available, which I don't think we do. So
I
I
would
think
be
we're
placing
kind
that.
of
Okay.
backs against the wall here.
Are-
Now,
We'll try to get it done before the introduction and we will see those numbers.
thank you.
Is that would be with sewer also, correct?
Yeah, it
Yes,
needs to be.
absolutely.
Yep. And I mean, in my opinion, if you can find a vendor that'll lump in stormwater, do it too. I mean, why one off the study? Do you agree or no?
I agree. I don't think we can have one vendor doing all.
Okay, well then stick to the key ones, which are water and sewer.
Right.
All right. Now, I want to spend a couple more minutes on the contribution from reserves. So if we take the $2,246,000 and I subtract out the $900,000 for the lead line replacement, not to cut, I'm just trying to understand the deficit here. And we subtract out the $177,000 for the ARPA contribution for the Powell Well building. And we subtract out the $185,000 for the smart meters, which is covered by ARPA. We would also, to get a better look at the picture, because I'm ending with a $984,000 balance there, we would take out the carry forwards, because those were contributions that were made in FY '25, correct?
Mhm.
And what are those? Can you read those to me? I think they're the hydrant replacement, right?
It would be a Ford 250 truck.
Is that a carry forward? I see that as a
That's a new,
capital.
it's a new item that we're advancing from capital, 65,000.
So I only want to pull out we pulled out the ARPAs and the grant. I want to pull out the carry forward. So then looking top to bottom, it would be hydrant would be next.
So 65 and a 325 for the back truck.
Those are
The new items. You want to just isolate the new
Yes,
items?
please. Yep.
Okay.
So those are the
65,000 for the Ford 250 truck. And the back truck, which is 50% of it here, is 325. Valve replacements,
That's new this year.
200,000. That's it.
Okay, so about 600,000, give or take. Okay. Now, last year, do we recall, was there a poll like this? I can't recall off the top of my
The
head.
water capacity plan,
That would carry forward too.
Was that a poll from reserve?
yes.
Okay.
The hydrant replacement carry forward 450.
Okay.
The Powelton Avenue, there was a larger number, I believe it was 300 total. That's 164 that was left from that amount. And that's all I could recollect right now.
So we're pretty consistent with that.
It's pretty consistent. It's going to be $500,000 to a little bit over $500,000 each year.
Now, with that, what's our customer base? Like volume of customers, like households?
4,500, no, that's total.
What are you saying, water?
The
For water
accounts, the
service.
number of the accounts for
You're
water,
19, almost 2,000.
2,000.
That's it?
That's it.
We have more in the electric.
You have
side.
more in?
Yes.
Yes,
Right,
because a lot of the departments are all individual, so they,
right. So it goes by, like, the single meter can service 12 units.
Right.
Versus.
So that's why you're going to
each
see a difference. The same thing with sewer, you're going to see a different capacity there.
If you're looking for the number of households, the electric is the
Is the
more,
better number.
yeah.
Okay, so about a $500,000 donut hole and a customer base of about 2,000. Perks of some old infrastructure. So,
you're telling me.
But if we look at the capacity of what we do and monstrosity of what they
Right.
entitled to do, we have our own wells. That's enormous. This is a shout out. We don't purchase water and treat it. We pump the water.
I mean, it's understandable, I mean, but we just gotta figure out, we gotta spend some time to figure out how we fix this. It doesn't look like it's getting better.
No.
All right.
It needs attention.
And it needs a third party's attention.
Yeah,
It's not
absolutely.
something that we can sort in-house.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
So I just wanted to go back to the part where we mentioned the county. I don't want anybody to think that we're we can't be compared to them because it's definitely not the same. So I don't want anybody out there to think, oh my gosh, the county's only paying and the town of Berlin is paying, because the county is only water. And we are water and sewer. Am I correct when I say?
The county has certain spots are water and sewer.
But not as a whole.
No, they have multiple. Worcester County has a lot. I mean, once you dig into Worcester County, I will tell you, they have a lot of stuff going on.
It's a complex system, and it's fragmented too. Like ours is situated here, and it's like servicing the town of Berlin.
Right.
Some areas you might just have sewer, some you might have water and sewer.
And we do sell water to the county.
Yeah, I know that for sure. I just didn't want anybody to think, oh my gosh, this is so drastic. Berlin is so much more than, we're not, and that's apples and oranges. I want
Yes.
to make sure that they.
And the other thing, and I feel like I'm going to beat a dead horse to death, but the new laws of testing, the PFOA, the PFOA, that has really put a burden on the residents of the town, that we're being mandated to test, that there's no funding for it. So I mean, the town can't incur, I mean, the residents are the one that have to pay for it. And that's, the county, that's one of the things they're facing too, is the same thing we're facing on that.
Yeah, we're facing mandates, we're facing the chemical costs that are going up. We're facing aging infrastructure that's not been replaced in well past its useful life.
Yeah.
We've got kind of like a little perfect storm brewing.
It is, and some days I wonder why I want to come to work.
Well, we really appreciate you.
Well, it was, today was a day that it just, everything,
Yeah.
whatever we touched, it just went to pieces quick today.
The other side is too, that I think it's important to note, is that ARPA really saved us for quite some time. Like through the pandemic, when things were tight, ARPA stepped in and kind of helped us out. Now that's gone. So, I mean,
They paid for a lot of stuff that would have been burdened onto the residents, as in
Yeah.
the meters, the insulation. That was close to $2 million that the taxpayers didn't have to pay.
Right.
Which was a wise investment on the mayor and council side, because now we got more accurate readings, and we noticed that we're getting to the gallon. I mean, I could read to the 1/10 of a gallon to everybody's houses. I mean, we can see to the 10th. The other thing is too that, we will have, hopefully the portal will be up, hopefully within the following week. We're only going to release it to the mayor and council and the employees
it's
that
in a
work
pilot,
here.
it's a pilot phase.
Yes.
To make sure that we work through, well,
Yes.
we're working through the kinks before it gets released to the.
And then that way, because there's people that have been calling, it's like, we've been out and knocked on their doors. We've been out and put door hangers on. And they're wondering like, well, how come we spend all this money on technology? I was like, we're working on it. I said, but we still have to work through the bugs to make sure it's proper for the residents.
Right.
And I will tell you, Michelle, Hannah, and Deanna have really took that on, and I feel last week we had a good meeting with the lady from Neptune, and they got her everything they needed in an hour. And the lady says, I'll be back with you in a short amount of time to have everything up and going.
Jamie, you mentioned we sell water to the county. That's the first time I've heard that. Can you say some more about that?
So Burnell Town out on Flower Street, and they had their own wells. They always tied into the town as a backup, as a emergency connection. About 10 years ago, they had some really bad contaminants in their well out there, and it needed.
It's been longer than that.
Is it been?
Yes,
Yeah.
I was like a teenager.
So MDE told them that they had to, MDE told them they had to abandon wells or put a treatment in.
Yes.
And for no more residents that were out there, the county came to the mayor and council and asked for if they could purchase the water off the town.
So it's the rate,
And by purchase water, it just means that the system runs out that far and it's metered. It's not as if it's tankfuls of water.
Yeah.
it's piped in.
Right.
Yes, it's actually helps, it actually completes a loop system, so that's the nice thing we have.
What's the rate that we charge for that?
It's the same rate, but I believe
Regular rate?
it's regular rate for water, I believe so.
Okay.
It's nothing different.
Do we provide sewer?
No,
No.
they're on the
They have
septic.
just water, so it's just multiplied by the gallon.
And it is billed by the gallon?
But the water was contaminated by the landfill. So that was why everybody had to
Yeah.
that was why somebody needed to step up in there and take over, because that was,
That makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah, it really does.
And that's the only area we sell?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So who's responsible for the pipes?
When you hit I call it the little bridge on Flower Street to about Stephen Decatur Middle School, the county maintains all that.
Big bridge, right?
The big bridge.
The
Big little bridge.
the little creek bridge.
You're right there by Cannery Village, there's a little bridge right there. They maintain everything in there.
So just, I just wanted to be clear, so what we're considering here, we currently have a water capital service fee that's on every customer's monthly bill. We're going to look into studying something that would be called a water capital replacement fee. That would also be an additional charge of each.
We're gonna look at it all,
Yeah, okay.
honestly. I think that it should be a top.
The capacity, water
Hold on.
capacity plus the 5, 7, 10-year capital plan should be one umbrella study broken into two separate pieces, obviously, the capacity and the capital replacement plan. Now, the capital fee that we have placed, honestly, it was an advisable fee at that time, and the cost went up. I'm not saying that it's going to be, that will go away, something new will come up. It could be just an adjustment to that fee. But that fee has to be set aside in a reserve for the fund for future, what we're doing right now, because we have a big donut hole, as Mayor called it. We're pulling it out and closing the gap immediately. We're not saving anything.
But I also think that there should be, like, should somebody that's single and using very low consumption be, I think it should be on a sliding scale, which is why I think we gotta bring in the third party, because when I would think about it, if you have a high demand customer, they're putting more of a strain on the system itself. So in my opinion, that should kind of fluctuate a little bit. And now that we can do that by gallon, I think that we turn that idea over to the professionals, and if they say, hey, look, you're really missing the mark, it needs to be a fixed fee, by all means, that's what we're paying for, but
But
I
then
just
the
think it
rate,
should be
to
proportionate.
your point, the rate should be adjusted. Then it should be, if you pass it from, and I'm just throwing the gallons, from 1,000 and up, your
Yep.
per gallon cost should be
I agree.
totally different.
We did the same
We
thing
don't-
for
yes.
electric.
We don't
Yeah,
have
up to
that
a
right
point,
now.
it's so much per gallon, and if it goes, yeah.
And you
sliding.
don't, and I'm gonna bring it up, you don't wanna get me started about irrigation systems.
Well, no.
Because I feel that they put the biggest strain on this town so everybody can have a green yard. We have we have a no drill, we have wellhead protection plan because we need to protect our water. But also, and I know there's a couple people that have wells that or irrigation meters, but we've done a little bit of a study and people are actually using more water through their irrigation than they are on their residential for a year. They're using more water irrigating for the year than they are as their regular household meter for the year.
The priority should always be potable, drinkable, cooking water, bathing water that goes into homes. with
Can we get
other uses
recycled
being
water for
secondary.
irrigation?
And I'd love to pump to town my treated effluent water. I mean, we're doing the same
What
thing.
is Maryland?
Maryland doesn't-
I know in Florida and stuff, that's
I
common.
know,
but-
it's common. It's
We,
really common.
at one time, we did a study with MDE years ago, and it's kind of,
I mean, is that something that MDE's even
It's
open
worth
to?
exploring the possibility.
well,
I know that's what Ocean Seas does, don't they?
they pump out the
At
pond.
the point that it,
But
yeah.
Florida does.
if I remember correctly, you all been up Route 1 outside of Milford to the Kent County Sports Complex?
Yeah.
That is all irrigated from the Kent County sanitation plant.
Delaware Turf.
Yes, if I can't remember the name of it,
Is
but
it
they are
green?
all irrigated.
Is it
from-
green?
Yeah.
Some are pretty strange, you'll go by.
Some of it's fake turf, but yeah, there are.
A lot of the fields are, sorry.
I think that stuff all needs to be on the table. If we're looking at ways that we're trying to really change the fund to make it better, that needs to be part of the conversation. And what it would take to be able to do something like that.
We go into the future, we regulate it from A to Z
That's-
by future standards.
Why not just start with 1, 2, and 3?
Why not start and doing future standards as well?
And then as we do a street, you lay the conduit that you're gonna need for
Second.
The
supply.
purple pipe, they call it the purple pipe. That's what it's called, and actually it is
You've
purple.
got that over in
Apply
the
that.
treatment.
Yeah.
Jamie, how many towns do spray irrigation in Maryland, do you know?
Not right off the hand, but we are the only municipality that is as large as we are year-round. We're one of the only. Everybody else has a stream discharge. They're allowed to stream discharge. The months that we can't, they're not allowed to spray. It's like November 1st through March 1st, they're not allowed to, they have to stream discharge.
Would we have restrictions if we went into something like the purple pipe? Would we have restrictions on when it could be used?
I would say the MD would probably say we couldn't use it like the December the 16th through February 28th.
You're
Which is
probably
the
not
cold-
irrigating much
Yeah.
at that time anyway.
Right.
But we could, if we could get away from, but MDs, it's been in their court for years. I mean, we've done the studies, we helped Dr. Tien with all that stuff, and, we might have to purchase some more equipment to really fine tune the water at the plant, but there's not much more we can fine tune there.
All right. Let's keep going, but I like the ideas.
Can you place a purple pipe together with a new lead replacement?
Purple pipe with lead pipe.
No, replace pipe.
Replace lead with purple.
I think if we go just through each department under each fund over the significant change items or new items, line items, and I don't think there is a need to touch on every
I
single
agree.
line.
We've got a lot to cover.
I have a question. We're on page 13, right?
Okay, yes.
We are
Yeah, we
getting
are.
ready.
Getting ready.
We're getting ready. Okay.
Okay, kick it off on 13.
Okay, so I guess, we, 5,200 contracted services. On here, there's a carry forward for a cross-connection control plan.
Yes,
So-
MDE is,
That's another mandate.
that is another mandate that we have to do.
Yeah.
And yes,
Where are you, Jack? I'm sorry.
that's-
Page 13 under
Almost at the bottom.
contracted
Contract
services.
services.
We
And what are
carried
you
from
asking
fiscal
for?
25, the cross-connection control plan is
Okay.
carried forward from prior year.
So, okay.
don't remind me, because Kate's she eats me up every, like, hey, Jamie, we need to get on this, we need to get on this. But
Well,
Weekly.
can the same folks that are doing, can this be part of what we're asking them to?
This is totally separate.
Yeah.
They will have to be involved because it's the language.
It
but
ties
it's-
together.
Yes, this is complicated.
All right. Thanks. And is this the same water capacity plan under capital outlay?
No.
Okay.
Two
So there's
different
just-
things.
Yeah, it's right there. It's just broken out.
I'm sorry, you're referring to page 14? Are you jumping to page 14?
We're on 13. cross-connection plan?
Yeah, well,
So let me
okay,
clarify,
sorry.
page 13 on the contracted services, the cross-connection control plan, it is not the same line item as capacity.
No.
Capacity plan will be on page 14 on the capital projects.
Let's segue to 14.
And is that the same as, is it, I'm confused. Is
Yes.
it the same? So it's
Water
actually
capacity.
$60,000?
No, no, no.
No, the cross-connection plan is separate
Yep.
from the
No,
capacity.
what I'm sorry,
plan.
is this water capacity plan in
It's in the
water
revenue.
administration the same that as we just kind of talked about contribution from reserve in water?
It's right here. It matches this.
So it's, okay.
Yep, because the revenue is getting
Third.
pulled from reserves, and the expenditure shows you going out to the vendor.
Correct.
Correct? Thank you. Page 14.
Page 14, so Ford 250 truck, Jimmy, you go ahead.
Yep.
We're starting to have problems with pickups. All the other, it's getting to a life expectancy, which we were always told 15 years, so we're just getting a new pickup to replace that one. Actually, we have 4 of them that are 2011, but we're only going to replace 1.
I would just hit the high points. I mean, we've got a lot of ground to cover tonight.
Oh, I know.
If somebody's got a question, we can come back to it.
Right, and we've seen this too.
With that?
And we got it too.
Yeah.
So,
And you can always email Natalie or I, and or call us, and we can help you out, too.
So looking through to page 15, the end of water administration, is there anything else that you'd like to highlight? If not, we'll open it up to comments from the council or questions from the council. I think it looks pretty straightforward. Okay, any questions from the council? Okay, move on. Page 16, please. Water treatment.
One of the bigger things is Poughton Avenue building. We're hopefully going to break ground next week. Could be turn demo on it. But me and Natalie felt we should just keep it in there in case we had to carry it over. But it can still be expense for this year.
And you think, like, budgetary-wise, the number is good enough for good?
We'll see.
But I mean, ballparking it,
Yeah.
we're pretty solid.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
And then you notice that well task number 3, that's the other part of the loan that Natalie was talking about. And
Top of page 17.
Page
Gotcha. Task
17,
3, yep.
it's the last task or last part of the project, and it's water supply 346 route.
And just so that we're clear, that's a new well.
a brand new well
Well
for that
four.
town. Well for. And probably next year, we should be back for budget season for a building, to make up the difference, whatever we need to finish to complete that well.
And that makes us much more, just for everybody like that's watching or that may watch, that makes us much more resilient, sustainable. When we lost that well midway through, and we really were,
Yes.
yes, we were. Thank you. All right. Any questions regarding water treatment?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So under chemicals, you just brushed on it, I'm just curious. It looks like it was in 23, in fiscal 23, it was at 85,000, then jumped to 107 in 24, then down to 55.
It's
And
not down to 55, it's what we have expensed as of right now in fiscal
Oh.
20.
Year to
So,
date.
so the total, okay. So
What-
70 is you feel that you're confident is good enough?
I'm hoping, and let me explain why we put it in at 70. It's because right now we have to get it in what they call mini bulk. So they charge a lot more because it's only like a 10-wheeler truck. Once well 1 gets online, we should be able to get it in as tractor trailer loads because we'll have the volume, and we might be able to piggyback off of another municipality's contract to get closer, hopefully a cheaper price, and that's what my thought is.
Thank you.
That's not what my thought is, that's what my hopes are, to try to cut, if I can get a tractor trailer load to save on cost.
That's like a $40,000 savings, which is pretty
Yeah.
good, so thank you for that. All right, any other questions for water treatment? Okay, moving on to water distribution, page 18. Capital picks up on page 19, you want to start there?
Yeah, we were carrying forward Elizabeth Maple School Field and East Branch Street for the replacements of water services. Flower Street's also is in there. The hydrant replacement program, I'd like to start working on to get some of the older hydrants out that some of them date before 1950. If they don't see a date on them, usually between before 1955 is what we've been told.
We're gonna start making them red too, just so everybody knows. A fire hydrant should be red. I don't know why we're yelling for them red.
And then there's half of the vac truck, and there's a valve there's some valving over at the intersection of Branch Street, and then
Hold on,
that,
Jack's got it.
I just saw like a little thing on that, they're different colors because they tap into different things.
Oh, well, sometimes they can be different color based on pressure and all that. Ours doesn't apply. We're gonna go back to a true fire hydrant, which.
yeah, most hydrants, most fire hydrants, if you see a blue top, it's 1,500 gallons a minute or more. Orange top is between 1,000 and 1,500 gallons. Then I can't remember all the green is another, like from 500 to 1,000, and then black top is under 500 gallons.
I
It
love
was
all
just
these
coincidental,
colors.
but-
And it will be
National
passed
Power.
at the end of the budget.
All red means that it's the best hydrant you can.
Yeah. And we have to do some valve work over on North Main Street, but it's too late to do it this year, so we're going to have to attempt it first of next year.
All right, any questions regarding the capital project? I think that'll conclude water distribution and the water fund itself. Anything else? Council? Okay, let's start with sewer fund revenues.
A long discussion we had with Jamie about HOLA fees. It starts on page 19.
And if the public following along, wastewater and sewer are the same thing. Because the agenda says wastewater fund.
It's sewer fund.
Yeah, just so that anybody that's watching, following along, same thing. Okay,
So in general, sewer fund, same overview. Overall, with prior cost adjustments and a placement of a capital fee, the situation of the sewer fund is improving. In the past, we had some difficulties reconciling that fund, and it was borrowed from general fund for so many years. But overall, I feel that we're in a good path, but also we are supporting all of the capital projects from the reserve pretty much. There's not much that sewer fund carries on its own and does not have a recovery for capital as well. So that study that we're talking about, if we're proceeding, probably the cost will need to be split between the water and sewer just to accommodate to them together.
I think that's smart.
For right now, HOLA fees, you see a large decrease, and Jamie and I had a long conversation. His concern, it should be lower. My advice, to leave it as it is and see which project is funded by the HOLA fees. If the revenues are not going to come in at fiscal 26 as predicted at 400, then the projects are not going to be completely finished or not completed at all. And for the reason because the vendors that are utilizing wastewater facility to bring the sewage, they might just finish their project and they're not coming for treatment. So the revenue is dependent and varies on how many vendors utilize a wastewater facility.
Are we expecting a decrease in our friends? Where are they at on their project?
I know too much.
No need to be said.
So our revenue will decline?
It's hard to tell right at this moment, but I think Big Brother's going to enforce some stuff onto them, so we might end up getting it a little bit longer than what I anticipated. But I just found that out Thursday last week, so I'm kind of, they're going to have to do some more stuff for a little while, and I think they were hoping they could be done, and it's not. They didn't follow all the proper channels and procedures,
We're here to help.
and we are.
So this figure is looking at basically without them, without that.
I'm thinking we'll have them for 6 months, and then after that, we should kind of see them start going away.
Okay. I was thinking about future years, the number that we would,
The future years will be a really small amount.
Lower,
Just
probably.
About 200.
just random populated vendors.
so that's what it was prior to this recent.
Yes.
Recent, how many years has it been now?
It's been a
This
while.
would be 4 years, I think, if I'm not mistaken, when we were told it would be a 6-month procedure.
Right.
And we've funded
A lot of stuff.
a lot of capital.
It helped us out a lot to do some additional work.
But at the
I like
same
those
time, you
areas.
keep forgetting that the wastewater plant is working on overdrive.
I know.
That's
They're
true, but
creating
There's a
extra
trade-off.
strengths.
You're taking in that extra
You're
stuff.
taking
that you
in,
need.
but you also is
Oh, I know.
outputting your infrastructure against that. And luckily, nothing major,
Yeah,
but
We're glad it's a short-term relationship, but it's helped us out.
it helps, yes.
All right. Let's see. We're on page 20, right?
we're on page 20.
Contributions from reserves.
Contributions from reserve. The aqua aerobics filter that's coming from reserve that need to be replaced. Digester roof coming from reserve that needs to be replaced. The reserve debt service, 460, that's the debt service for fiscal 26, the amount. Lee Road paving, it's a carry forward that is funded by the COLA fees. Half of a back truck. West Street lift station coming from reserve of 1.5 million, and the wastewater light that coming from reserve as well.
And I skipped over the Flower Street lift station.
We actually wrote a grant from MDE to see if we can get that because of the safety and where it's located.
And bus traffic.
And that's the same way with West Street. That's one of the ones we're trying to get moved.
You applied for a grant for West Street?
We did, we got denied,
Okay.
so that's why we put money in last year. Natalie said, let's go ahead and get it done this year. That's why it's 1.5 million.
Okay, so, how do I ask this? We are also looking into possibly doing some designs to West Street.
Yes.
I know we're gonna have to get the lift station at some point anyway, but I mean,
We're trying to get it now.
but I mean, are we gonna get it and then with the new design have to do something different to it?
No, it's back far enough. We've made sure that all your concerns of what people have said, it would be, we're able to get a little bit of land off the school district or the county to put it right in the corner there. So we're limited on our
It's
space.
going to
Yeah.
help with the new Buckingham that's being built.
Yeah, well, with the new school, if their facilities are more efficient, is that gonna put a further strain? Or no?
I can't say because right now they don't know where the new school's going. And we don't know whether if it's either going to go out the front or to the West Street lift station. So it's still up in the air. I've heard 4 or 5 different people tell me how it was going to be done. But until it gets in front of us, I mean, I wanted to go ahead and start getting this moving because it is actually a safety hazard because when you pull and punch, you have to lay down in the middle of the street to get the cables and the floats out of the lift station. And we have to rely on Tim all the time, whether we have to come in on weekends and all that. Tim has to come in with a pole truck to pull the lid so we can get in and work on the lift station. So it's usually, when we go to West Street and Flower Street, you're paying our guys overtime, and you're also having Tim's guys out there because we can't do it without them.
Thank you.
All right, sewer admin, page 21.
So under admin page 21, you will see a contribution to general fund is an interfund transfer that is basically a tentative schedule to be placed depending on how the fund will close at the end of the year. We were able to do that in fiscal 24. I'm not sure it's going to happen in fiscal 25. You will not see that transfer scheduled for stormwater fund, unfortunately, when we get to it. That transfer goes to general fund and it closes to against contribution to reserve. So there is no impact on the general fund, but it's a placeholder on the sewer fund. So we are making sure that possibly it will be available. Also, the only thing on the personnel cost, a change, we're placing on-call cost
Yep.
for emergency and after-hour services, and that's split in half. We didn't mention it in water, but it's split in half evenly between water and sewer.
I think it's a smart move.
It has to be.
Yep, I agree. Shouldn't just fall on a basket of a few folks.
There's a local company that specializes on on-call
So
sewer.
our guys will do it.
Oh, I see.
All it is, so what,
We're asking them not to I mean, you know, it's
Yes,
hard
yeah.
because they can't, you know.
They have to respond in so many minutes,
Yeah,
so we're
limiting them on their weekend free time. So if we know that they are on call, then they will get 200 for that week, but then they are not, they're available. They will make sure they're not leaving the area, they're staying, you know. So it's them giving up their personal, I guess, freedom there a little bit, but they're getting paid for it.
And this is better for us financially rather than all overtime.
Well, right now you have about 2 people do a lot of the call-ins, and I'm one of them. So I feel that I don't get anything for it, and I feel like I'm in way more than I should be. So I asked the mayor and Mary and all them what they thought about doing this, what Worcester County does
Yeah,
it.
we picked what the county did.
And this is what they do, and I just felt, you know, I gotta put some responsibility on the guys that work for me.
Yep.
So they will take a take-home vehicle that week that they're on call, they'll get some additional pay that week. They still get paid if they get called in. So this is just so that they are staying available, local, and ready if we need something.
And on call, the cycle will be weekly, or will it be just before Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
Monday through Monday.
Monday through, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And it will be a total of, what, about 7 employees
Yes.
that we will have rotated in water, wastewater, so.
And I've been
This is
up
a first for us.
3 days this last week at 12:30, 2 a.m. and 4:30.
Yeah, every 5 seconds I see you in town. No offense, you need to be home sometime. You know,
That makes sense. That's true.
And electric will be doing the same thing as well, just, so you know.
I think it's smart. Plus, I mean, those are 2 critical services that if we do get like a call from emergency services or something, it's nice to have a designated point person. That number will be shared. They're going to get dedicated phones for all.
We're on call. Kate's working with me, but we're trying to see if we can get one phone for,
That'll flip or something like that. There will be a way that the police department knows, hey, this is the
it
person.
doesn't matter, they call that number first and then, you know.
Let's keep rocking and rolling.
Going through the sewer administration, I really don't see any variances. There is on page 22, there is a decrease in employee training, and that's Megan's salary and her training, her specialized training was allocated here.
Plus, we have education that kind of hit the end, right,
Mhm.
graduation.
Right,
so
and
she
there are
got-
several people that ended, so there is a decrease actually.
You still have everything you need though, like you're good for training wise?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think,
Yeah, you look puzzled for a moment.
yeah, because there's always so much coming up. I mean, it's changing every day.
But you feel comfortable with?
Yes,
with that?
yes.
All right, let's keep rocking and rolling. Page 23. I don't see anything there that really.
General
stands out.
overhead will be recalculated, that number will change. Bond principal and bond interest, you will see a slight decrease, well, a big decrease in the principal, and interest pretty much remains the same, but we are moving along the lines to paying off the debt. I mean, we still have a long way to go, but
Good. Thank you for working on that. Any questions for Natalie or Jamie
Yeah.
regarding sewer admin?
Yeah, just to be clear, 2026 is the year that the GFI person officially goes to.
GIS.
GIS.
Whatever.
Megan?
I know what you meant.
Goes to, exactly, a whole bunch of acronyms. Anyway, goes to, goes to planning and zoning completely. You're not no longer the shared entity or whatever, right?
July 1st, her
Jamie's
salary is
working on-
allocated to planning.
Yep, Jamie's working on some restructuring within his department due to some retirements and.
Unforeseen retirements real quick, so can I,
Yeah, go ahead.
so, we're gonna do away with Kelsey can help me on this because she's helped me. We're gonna do away with the wastewater superintendent, which I have a water superintendent, Dave. He's gonna fill out in that role, take over water and wastewater so that we have one person, but the paperwork has gotten so lengthy and so strong, you know.
A lot more reporting to the state, a lot more state mandates and things we're having to do a lot of computer work, and so we've shifted how we're.
I've asked the mayor and Kelsey to see if I could advertise for admin assistant to try to take care of the paperwork aspect. And because I mean, now we have to start keeping logs of the water lines we replace. You know, we have to change out 3% of our system that we know that are lead, that have to change them out. So there's a lot of recording and paperwork going to have to start really being done.
And Megan was doing some of that as the wastewater superintendent, but we were thinking if we had a dedicated water administrative assistant and then doing away with the superintendent of wastewater, but making the water superintendent, water resources superintendent, just like Public Works just has two. We were kind of thinking of shifting some duties to Dave and then hiring an admin assistant that also would help with lab reporting and things like that. So we also have another retirement coming up for your assistant superintendent to wastewater. So we will not have any wastewater superintendent roles here soon.
It'll streamline it. It'll make it more consistent with our other
And it
departments.
makes it clearer to the employees too, because there's a lot of employees that are split, as you know, in water. And sometimes they're not sure who they answer to. You know, do I go to Megan? Do I go to Dave? You know, it was always
So that's the
confusing.
question with your admin assistant, that person is going to just sit on the fence, like between the three?
Well, no, they would have streamlined reporting to Jamie.
Yes.
But right now they are
But
budgeted
they're reporting
under
all the things,
wastewater
right?
They
still,
will-
because that's where we had a
They
position.
will be working out of all three departments,
That's
water,
what-
wastewater, and stormwater.
All of the
They will be
things,
helping
yeah.
with whatever I ask them to do, they will be,
That, yeah.
They'll,
That's
they'll be handling aspects of all three departments, but they will be answerable to JV.
for sure.
Yeah.
But everybody answers to Jamie.
Yeah, exactly.
One way or another. If you want your toilet ordered, you answer to Jamie.
Well, I think Jamie needs it too. He's got a lot on his plate with like.
well, and we're being, and the target's moving all the time. Tim sees it in his aspect with the generation and the power and all that, and it's just, it's overburdening, and I would tell you right now, I don't know if, I love what I do, but I don't know if I'd ever get back in this field the way that the industry's changed.
The way it's moving now.
We're
And
gonna be
I mean-
hiring soon, so don't say that.
Well, but I mean, I love what I do, but it's just all the paperwork and all the up and coming things. I mean, wastewater has a 6% pass rate. So if 100 people take the test, 6 are passing out of 100. And it's
That's
scary.
intimidating
It's
for
tough.
our employees too. They don't want to take the test because they don't want to fail, but you're going to probably fail the first couple times until you kind of know what they're looking for, so it's
I mean, that's
inevitable.
We're gonna celebrate your failures every time.
Yeah, that's what I told them. I said, don't be scared.
I celebrate their failures with signing them up and get out there and take that test again.
Yeah.
I mean, we're
And
going to
if
keep
you,
it.
if you get it on your first
That's
try,
how you
awesome, you're a 6%er, but, yeah.
So there's a lot of, you know,
I think too, that like each time they take it, they can learn. And
Mhm.
the thing that we've talked
Every
about
failure is learning.
is that it doesn't mean that they're not competent.
Right.
Because,
the key to success.
what's that?
Failure is the key to
Exactly.
success.
But it doesn't mean that they're not competent, because as we've discussed, and this is an important thing to know for the public and for the council, that it's on every different type of system that could possibly be in the field.
if there's 20 systems out there, you test on 20 different systems.
Yep.
Even though we want an SBR plant, we could be tested on the city of Salisbury's, Ocean Cities, Fruitlands, you know, everybody up and down the whole East Coast.
And they have to know all these different colored hydrants too.
That's right.
You're right, and you have to be able to identify
Can I
something.
please go back to the hydrants, because I made a huge hydrant move. I love the idea of the red ones, but I still feel like your different powers, we can do red as
We're
the
doing
out.
red.
Shh. We can do red
We've
as
already started.
as auxiliary color, but I think you need to still have like the black if it's that, whatever the pressure is on there somewhere.
Well, we should not,
Ours is consistent.
Right.
ours should not
Are they
have,
all consistent?
yes, because we try to get away without having any dead ends in our town. I think I can count on one hand how many dead ends this town has. And if I had my choice, if I'd done it over again, we would have made that developer, he wouldn't have had no choice.
Hindsight, you know.
But I mean, if
But
you
we
sit,
go for the next guy.
Right.
but if you sit in our project meetings, I mean, like, everybody's looking at, oh, this is a nice project. Well, I'm not looking at the project, I'm looking at what's in the ground. You know, I'm looking at, all right, we need to better tie this in, we need to make sure we get this tied in under 113, or we need to make sure, you need to run it down so this is all looped to come out this way, so we want to make sure our system is looped the best way it can.
So the standard at this point is gonna be the red from this point forward.
Yes.
If you're not red, then you're not in.
Yes, ma'am.
Dogs like it better, you know? They like the pee on the
Oh,
ones
my.
better than the yellow ones.
Actually, asked him in like utility poles
Yeah.
and Victorian like poles.
Yeah.
It's all good. All right, let's keep going though. Come on, we're in collection and we're on
Page
page 24.
25, where we'll go over the capital projects, and collection carries a lot of capital projects. And a lot of discussion was going on around this capital project, especially about Flower Street and High Tide Lift Station upgrade. That was gonna be funded by the whole fees. We're also gonna try to have a excavator purchased. The back truck, half of it is in here, the 325, which I think it should be here 100%. West Street Lift Station.
Can the fund hold the 100?
750.
So we're kind of, we have to do it either way.
The auditors always frown at me when I say this asset's split in half. It can't be split in half.
Well, then they need to help us get some more revenue on the fund they want.
Is an excavator really a 100, only 150?
Yeah, for the size we want.
Okay.
West Street Lift Station is,
He's starting to do side gigs.
That's right.
HVAC,
I'm
actually,
just gonna call it jack of all trades.
master of what?
sorry.
All right, we're good. Yeah, go ahead.
West Street Lift Station is the same project, it's just split in half to show how it gets funded. So it is a combination between the carry forward from prior year of 750 and also additional 750 of new reserve monies need to be advanced because the West Street is now going to be completed for 750 only.
You think it'll be that expensive for the whole shebang?
$1.4 million right now. And that only means I have a $100,000 reserve in case.
Large and rare?
That's
What's the big driver of that cost? Because we replaced some others that have not been that expensive.
Broad Street was $1 million.
Okay.
So some of the driving costs is we have to reroute some of the sewer.
Okay.
So there's going to be work out in Broad Street, or West Street, excuse me, because the sewer actually, we're moving the lift station further back up the hill. We have to turn the sewer around and relay it back to the lift station.
Okay.
You're completely changing the location, whereas on Broad Street, it was.
It was all the same distance. We just lowered it.
Trying to make sure that we're
Yeah.
all on the same page.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
And the schools ask us to do some different structures around there, and we have to do stormwater management there also.
All right. Any questions regarding the items that we just discussed on page 25? Jack, we'll keep going. Any questions regarding collection system as a whole? Jack, keep going. Water treatment?
The only thing
Or wastewater treatment?
Well, collection system, I want everybody to pay attention to one thing down here, because this will jump out to you. 24, 58, 20, 57, 90, lab and testing. That has been increased to $95,000 because that is our PFAS and PFOA testing of all of our sewers and everything in town. Lift stations, treatment plants, everything. So now then I just put it in one department at the treatment plant. We have to do testing at the spray site every 6 months. It's everything. So I don't want anybody to be caught off guard when they see it's only $20,000 to $95,000.
You're on page 27.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right.
Sorry.
You went
You
all
jumped
the
ahead
way.
a little bit.
That was,
I'm sorry.
You're on treatment.
yeah.
Yes,
we're-
treatment
we're-
plant, 24, 58,
I was
20.
like, man, did I miss that?
5790. This is this hurt me to put this in there but this is what they're requiring us to do. I'm trying to get it, some of this testing they want it done for 5 years. I'm arguing with them that I think it should not exceed no more than 18 months because one part of our permit's going to require it for 18 months, the other one's we're going to require it for 5 years. So it's not going to change in 5 years, so why can't we just try to save the payer some money too? So this,
Is there anything we can do with that?
I'm sure
You
my,
want to talk offline?
I'm sure there's my picture up on Indeed's wall with a dart thrown at it every day, because they,
I think I'm there with you too. This-
I mean, I've actually,
in trouble.
we've only been working on this permit for 11 months now, and they keep saying, well, we need to get this done, we need to get this done. And I was like, okay, but you're not meeting my likings, and I sent it back with new, updated stuff that I'd like to see, and I've never heard nothing back since, I was on vacation that couple of days, so it was in February, so I'm waiting, I'll probably get an email
They haven't
tomorrow.
gotten back to us since then?
No. So I'm fighting for the ratepayers, because I said it, I don't feel the town should be burdened with, one place has to be done for 5 years, another place only can be done for 18 months. It's the same place, it's the same water, it's everything the same.
And it doesn't make sense. And explain, is there a difference between ag and MDE on this or no?
No.
It's all
It's
just
all
MDE
MDE.
with different intervals?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll look at it together.
Sorry, I didn't.
You want to do most important item, that's okay. We have skipped the capital projects, but I think we pretty much discussed that. The wastewater treatment plan has 3 projects that are all carried from fiscal 25 to fiscal 26. The aquarobics filters, digester building roof, and LED lights. LED lights, I shouldn't say LED lights.
Yeah.
LED lights.
Any questions regarding the treatment plan? Okay. Move on to spray site, page 28.
Really, the only big things out there is the Lee Road paving and 2 lawnmowers.
Okay. Any questions regarding the spray site or the sewer fund as a whole? Okay, move on to the stormwater, really picks up on page 30. With revenues.
Stormwater fund relies heavily on grants for the capital projects. I have discussed the future projects for the stormwater with EA Engineering, and there are several grants that we applied and received in fiscal 25, and we will be applying for 2 more climate resilience plan, which is DNR grant for $62,600, and then the grant for Westminster Abbey offshore submerged grave gravel wetlands construction for $508,500. Those you will see reflected in the capital projects. We also have CDBG grant, and they're not pretty much all identical, but it's just me summarizing under the same line items. Henry's Mill Green Offland Wetland Design, it's design only, $75,000. Hudson Branch, should say stream, not street. That stream restoration, $55,000. Watershed management plan of $30,000.
And Natalie, just to clarify, that shouldn't be CDBG, it should be CBT.
Yeah, coastal base.
That's what I
Coastal
said,
base,
they're just combined,
Or
under-
coastal
I
base
don't want to
program.
create a separate line item.
I understand,
They're
okay.
combined there, but they're not identical
Okay,
grants,
okay.
yes. For
I
me-
thought when we met initially, wasn't there a funding amount that we were missing for a grant that we needed? I thought when we talked at the staff level that we discussed fees, and I thought Darrell had something that we needed to raise additional funds to be able to cover a match.
There is,
Did we figure that part out, or?
The matching part of the grants.
I think we're talking about general fund, we had a match.
I'll go back to that.
For
I'll
the
figure it out.
stormwater?
I thought it was for stormwater, yeah. Because we talked about rates when we were together. Either of you remember?
Yeah.
Give me 1 second, and I will let you know if there is
Well, there was a grant that Darrell said he needed additional matching funds, otherwise we couldn't complete it. Do you recall that, or am I just?
Vaguely.
I will look
Not
at it
enough
again,
to-
but
Mine or not?
This is all I have. I don't know if that
The West Side Wetland Offline concept design had $38,000 in the town match, yes.
Okay.
That amount is combined, 30,000 and 60,000 is combined together.
But it's built into the revenues we're receiving.
So under capital projects, you will see West Side Offline, 38,000. This amount is the town match. Or town, this part of the project is funded by the town revenues. The 60,000 Westminster Abbey is coming from the grant.
Okay.
But we have to have the 38,000 set aside to be able to apply for that grant.
And for some reason, I thought we had a missing component there, like we didn't have enough funding to be able to cover.
We didn't, that's why I did not do the transfer to general fund.
Okay.
I close it out to zero.
That's fine.
We had to basically
I knew we had discussed something
decide
around that.
whether we're gonna apply for a grant or.
I'm good with it. Thank you.
The state grant, the Coastal Bays program was awarded. Is any of that in here, or is that this?
Some of it is in here. That's that watershed portion, isn't it? Okay. Well, you'll see it on page 32 is really where you're going to see it, I think.
The watershed management plan CBT grant for 30,000.
That's all we got out of that $1 million
Two.
grant.
2 million.
2 million, but that's all the town of Berlin got out of this.
It's, I think a lot of it is still up in the air. It hasn't moved forward.
I would hope so. It's
Yeah.
not worth the letter.
We,
That took the time to,
what is it?
I'm sorry to hear that, but hope that that's not accurate, but, or the end result. But curious about the location of the Henry's Mill Green site right now.
So it's a design and
Where
the way this whole project, actually Darrell suggested not to break it down by the streets. I'm placing it just for our own purposes.
If I'm not mistaken, that's the property of the,
That we're working to try and secure.
Right.
I can't remember the.
So, but it's
That's
just
fine.
the initial
That's fine.
design. It's not an actual construction of it.
That's offline.
It will touch the multiple areas.
Great.
Thank you all.
So a lot of the projects, again, a lot of capital projects, a lot of reliance on the grants, small amount placed from the town funds, and there is nothing in contingency, and it will be no potentially transferred to the general fund as budgeted at the moment.
Do we want to go over on page 32 and hit any of the questions that council might have regarding capital improvement? So I know we've kind of blended over there already, but is there any outstanding questions from the body for Jamie or Natalie? Okay.
Overall, it sounds like struggling fund. It is.
It is.
But overall, if you look at the greatness of what achieved, how much money been received in the past and how much been completed as of right now, discussing it on the scale and comparing to other municipalities, we're way far
Oh, yeah.
advanced. We're too far advanced in where we are with the stormwater management. Some municipalities just started to think about imposing the fees of stormwaters and not even being able to receive any grants, especially in today's day. Us placing that amount from, we have advanced several hundred thousands from the general fund. Yes, it was frowned upon, but look how much grants we got in response, and we're still doing it with the match and with the struggling numbers, only 2 employees under the fund to complete 800,000 in grants. That's tremendous.
Natalie, your general overhead amounts, you said they may be adjusted by the time we get to the final budget. Is there a specific percentage you use, or is it just as a need to pay, or how do you calculate that?
So it is based on the fund balance at the end, when it's all tied together, when we adjust the personnel cost, insurance and everything. So then I take the balance of fund in general and compare it to the cost of general fund, or I call it administrative services.
Okay.
In the past, I was not placing the general overhead at all. I was combining to the sewer and water resources because the stormwater was just at the beginning. So I will see how we stand with general overhead, and you're biting my future suggestion. I might turn it to the transfer and reverse the general overhead. I mean, it's being creative a little bit here, but I have to place importance whether to close that due to due from fund balance or continue repaying the general overhead.
Thank you.
Let's move on to electric. Jamie, you hanging out or are you going?
I gotta go turn some water on.
Okay, we'll talk tomorrow. I have a question about Rhoda. Oh.
Okay, and I have some questions for you, so can you get up with me?
Yeah.
So we can sit down and
Yep.
we need to
I'll
talk about.
call you in the morning.
Okay.
Okay. Move on to electric. Let's cover electric revenues, starting on page 1.
What?
He's leaving me. He said I'm gonna go sit with Natalie. I'm like, all right.
They're talking.
I came over so you were by yourself. All right, Tim.
We're sitting on the other side.
It's okay. I'm not.
Bye, Kelsey.
I have my own microphone now, if I need it, so.
You don't have to share.
Yeah, the mayor likes that too.
I did. I like my mic.
So we're going back to page 1 of the report, and the electric fund starts from electric fund revenues on page 1. All the revenue projections for all of the services, residential, commercial, general service, streetlights, large general service, is projected with help of our engineering services. So it's basically based on what we have currently plus the additional services potentially, multiplied by the rates that we are calculating on a monthly basis. There is nothing here is based on any increase or recovery of a capital fee that potentially will be covered by the electric rate study as of right now. We're working on it. Service and material line item, you will see a big decrease, not because we're not expecting to do things, but this line item covers if electric department performs an outside job where they purchase an equipment and a developer reimburses back for us. So we bill the developer or a residential service through the invoicing, those revenues collected here. The question is, why would we just place it against the expense and close the expense? We're required to trace the revenue come in as a separate and expenses paid out as a separate. So we don't merge them together.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, in the rate study, we are going to review our rates associated with this type of a charge.
Yes,
Because
the rate
it's a little below
of
market
equipment
rate.
recovery, the personnel cost recovery per hour, it should be covered there. Interest on delinquent is for non-payments. Contribution from reserve, that is a line item that you don't used to see in electric, but the extent of the equipment, the cost of the equipment, and some of the items that are not completed in fiscal 25 and carry forward to fiscal 26. So there is a half-ton pickup truck of 52,000. That's a new line item. The bucket truck is a carry forward 250 from fiscal 25. The digger derrick truck. That is so cute. Long discussion, 330, huge amount, but the same pretty much as a back truck for the water resources. This is essential piece of equipment that electric is in need. You cannot install the electric pole without it, correct, Tim?
That's correct.
And the
If
lead
that,
time?
and that,
What's that?
The lead time?
About 2.5 years.
and we, yes, this is another problem that we have, but so pretty much the same situation. We're gonna try to inquire and put encumbrance and order a new truck and hope that the one that Tim has
last.
will live long enough.
The existing truck is a 1994. It tells you how old.
Good, good. Is Digger Derrick gonna be, is this vendor going to be like what we're hearing the Mary State new vendor issue is? Excuse me. We'll tell you this price, but we can't guarantee when it's 36 months out, it's time to get it. That's really gonna be that price still? Or are they gonna be locked in?
I think it'll be locked in. We normally go through Sourcewell when we order those type trucks, and you lock in the price.
Great. Digger Derrick, God.
There is a backup generator at the school field, coolant power indicator, that is in new items. Enclosures, 3-phase, new item, and engine number 5, hot start, 40,000. Those are all new items.
So the only carry forward is the,
We're
bucket
still
truck?
going on page 2. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't look at me.
Meter tester is an equipment that need to be purchased, 14,000. Oxidation catalyst filter,
Yeah.
say it again. 10,000. Rate case study is a carry forward item that we're working on and hopefully we will be completed in fiscal '26. And Savage substation transformers of 170,000.
That's carried.
It's a carry forward as well. So rate study, transformers, and bucket truck.
The green, yeah.
Those are just rebudgeted items. Everything else is new, but reserve is advanced to cover them.
The rate case study is a carry forward, correct me if I'm wrong, obviously. Is that one of the RFPs that we're still working on developing?
No, that's handled by Booth and Associates, the electric consultant.
So, okay, thanks.
Any questions regarding the transfer from reserves? Okay, let's cover the AMIs.
The bond loan receipts, I'm placing the full amount of $1 million. We've done already, it's all done and settled. We have that.
What was our ending?
The advantage of this specific loan, this is part of our CDA program together with the Public Works. This amount is available, it's on a reimbursable basis, so we don't pay the amount of interest on the full outstanding. We pay the interest on what we advance. So as we proceed with that project, we will reimburse from CDA and then the interest will be.
And we're expecting this to come in under it, actually.
It did, we have finished that,
Yeah.
awarded that contract. I can't remember what the amount was. For the AMI meters, correct?
Yes,
Yes, it comes
next
to a little bit under $1 million, but with
Right.
the
Yeah.
changes, I can see
Yeah,
that
yeah.
we probably will be up to $1 million. Like I said, the good part that we're not responsible in the moment for the full $1 million in interest.
I couldn't recall where, I thought we were coming in under, but. I
It
couldn't
did,
recall.
yeah, I just don't remember the amount.
All right, any questions regarding electric fund revenues? Okay. Seeing none, let's move on to electric administration, page 3. You can start with professional services if you want.
Tim, you're on page 3.
All right, I'll start at professional services. That's 5,600, 5,000. Engineering, electric matters, that's basically Booth Associates. They can consult for us, with the Public Service Commission. They help us with our purchase power agreements and that type of stuff. That's 110,000. Legal electric services, that's for our utility attorney. And then the rate study reserve, that's the carryover from, that's been going on a year or two now. So it's just a carryover to get that pushed through. And then from there,
I think everything else, unless there's something you want to hit a highlight for.
yeah, I've actually got a few things right down. It's not a lot. One under 5,600, 5,615, which is travel. That's carried under administrative budget for all.
That's over on page 4.
Yes,
Page 4.
that's page 4. That's travel expenses for training, like meter school, line worker school, gas and go rodeo. power plant for, relay training, that type of thing, so it's all combined together. Then if you drop down to 5621, employee training, you'll see line worker meter training, that's 9,000. That includes all the employees, all the different training they go through. Then we have the meter training for 3,000. That's actually a meter class that's held in North Carolina every year that David attends. Then we have emission certification, which is required by the power plant and MDE. And then also generation training, that's for the 2 employees at the power plant. And then relay training, that's also for all employees, distribution and power plant. Then if you drop down and you just go through the rest, like advertising, safety supplies, materials, that type of thing, there's nothing real drastic. Overall, in 5600, there was a $64,600 increase, which adds up to about 4% decrease in the budget.
Decrease.
I corrected myself.
Any questions for Tim? We're looking at a almost $65,000 decrease in electric cabinet.
That's correct.
Yeah, Tim, I just wanted to, real quick, just to clarify, what is you said Gaff and Go?
Rodeo. Yeah, what that is some of our employees, I used to do it a lot, but Alan normally goes to it. Gaff and Go Rodeo is basically a competition between linemen from all over the country. It's held in Doswell, Virginia, and they asked us to be a judge in the event, basically. So a couple of us, I used to go myself, and then Alan would go. Now Alan goes by himself because they want people that are experienced, like lead linemen, chief linemen, directors, that type of thing, to be chief event judges. So they actually request that we do it. Which you get to, meet other power companies and linemen and watch how they do things. And you learn a lot from the event.
Do we send anybody to compete?
I tried to get them to do that, but none of them want to try it.
Why not?
So I've asked, and I can't get anybody who wants to compete.
We might have to incentivize them. Tell them if they go and they win, we'll give them a day off.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. Chop Tank actually, last year,
Hey.
and if you
Maybe crippled in a good day.
I don't think we'll cripple anybody.
Just let you know.
Are we going to injure any of our staff by sending them?
You could get injured if you're participating.
Like, can they participate safely?
Yes, it's all safely to be done.
We're going to jeopardize one of our little awards because we want to win a
right.
gas.
Just to let you know, Chop Tank Electric actually won the entire event last year.
Oh, wow. That's actually-
Which by winning that, you actually get to make a trip to the International Rodeo, which is the largest rodeo event where there's competition held between different power companies, and Chop Tank actually got to participate in that.
Where's that held?
It could be anywhere. They just have to figure out where it's held at. They do it in different states.
Yeah.
So were they
No, but
like
seriously, figure out
Feel
what
like
we can do.
lassoing poles? Like,
No,
think of a rodeo, I'm
they
thinking
have like
Yeah, explain what this entails.
Yes, if you, it's kind of like the work we do every day out here in the field, like working on poles, changing out cross arms, transformers. They're actually speed trials. You have to do it under a certain amount. I used to be an event judge with American Public Power Association for about 15 years. I used to travel all over the United States, and I actually participated in the event. But then I started becoming an event judge with American Public Power Association. So it's basically a competition where they compete against each other, and they have all these different events set up, like changing out cross arms, transformers, that type of thing, cutouts, and you have to do it under a certain amount of time. And they have certain penalties, like say for example, you climb up the pole and you end up dropping a wrench, for example, that's like a 2-point deduction. So, certain things happen. Like, I've been to events where some of the employees actually fell off the
Oh,
pole.
my God.
Like 40 feet up, they got hurt, that type of thing. That's before
So
they.
it's gonna open us up to liability.
Wait a minute. Let me
I mean, I got a competitive edge, man. Like,
Yeah.
I like
Yeah,
the.
but just to let you know, they kind of stopped all that from people getting hurt when they came out with what's called the buck squeeze device. It's the second safety that goes on your climbing belt that basically chokes the pole. So if you were to cut loose or fall, it would actually choke the pole and stop you. So it's almost impossible to fall.
Well, I appreciate that because I wanted everyone out there on Facebook and to understand that we're not sending our folks to like,
No,
Right.
no, it's a very safe event. I mean, all the big power companies like Dominion Power in Virginia, for example, I'm sure that Pepco sends people there, BG&E, Chop Tank, Delmarva Power. A lot of them participate in these type of events.
We're sending some.
Yeah, thank you.
That's pretty cool.
I just had another
I wanna see
question. Oh, I'm sorry. I just had another quick question, and I'm going to ask, I don't mean any offense to anybody, but are Booth and Associates, I mean, this is $175,000, and they've had it now for 2 years. Are they just behind? Or I know we're not the only client. but-
The point person's actually retiring, so we are,
Okay.
the important work that we do is the rate study or the rate case and things of that nature. That's the top priority work, but we do need the rate study itself done.
I was just asking.
Kind
You're
of
spot on.
combination of everything. There's so much information been requested from us as well. That is basically Kelly sitting on my plate to send it back. And some of it on their side and some of it is that people are changing in firms. So we try to move along as fast as possible going forward, especially with our new AMI metering project coming in.
Wait a minute, it needs to be done.
But, yeah, no, yeah.
All right, power plant, page 6.
Okay. All right, moving on to page 6. Big items down there, I'm going to drop down to contracted services. Most of that is pretty small numbers there. One thing, generation maintenance, for example, that is the gas engine. That was installed in 2019. Carter Machinery, they actually have a maintenance agreement to maintain that engine, so they come in and change the oil, that type of thing. The oil actually has to be tested to see if it's got any metal in it and that type of thing. So every year they come in, they pull oil samples, and then they send it off, have the lab tested. That way you can tell if something internally is going on with the engine. So that's the big ticket item as far as contracted services. And then if you go over on page 7, rebuilding of the cooling pumps, that's $20,000. Basically on the cooling tower, there's some pumps up there that circulate the water from the cooling tower into the building and back. They need to be rebuilt. They've got some age on them, so they're at the point they need to be worked on. One of the other expensive ticket items is thermography heat testing. That's never been done at the power plant. That's where a company comes in and they actually test all the switchgear and plus the motors, the generators, to see if there's any loose connections or a potential of a fault, basically. And they can pick that up with thermography testing. Basically, it's preventive maintenance on the engines. Then if you go down to 5251, Cat engine batteries, the engine is 5 years old now. The batteries are due for replacement. They're $6,500. They're not your normal batteries. They're about this big, and there's like 12 of them. And they're wired in series. They need to be replaced. Then if you drop down to 5255, the cooling tower indicators, that's $25,000. That's another part of the cooling tower that needs to be basically replaced. They're no longer working. That tells us how much water is actually flowing to and from the power plant, recycling through the engines back to the cooling tower. The engine number 5 hot start system, that's the big E&D engine. That's $40,000. The hot start system, what that is, it's a heating system that heats up the water that flows around the inside of the engine to keep the engine warm. And the reason we do that is because if you let it, if it's not constantly kept hot, the gaskets on the engine actually dry out. And then you end up having to replace all the gaskets and everything. That start system runs 24/7 all the time around the clock. And it was installed in 1978. So it's definitely at the point it needs to be replaced. And then also the oxidation catalyst filter, which Natalie talked about earlier. That's a filter that goes inside the big device on the diesel engines that it's mandated by the Maryland Department of Environment for the RICE regulation. That's a filter that when the exhaust goes through it, it starts a reaction inside there which produces the NOx coming out. And then if you go down to 5620, you see Public Service Commission, that basically is permitting that type of stuff that we have to do through Public Service Commission concerning the engines and the emissions and that type of thing. Then if you look at 5631, diesel natural gas fuel, that actually was decreased by $31,000, which is a 22% decrease. Chemicals, we were able to decrease that because of installing the natural gas engine. They don't require the same chemicals that go in the coolant tower to go through that engine. So we were able to decrease that a little bit. So overall, for the 5610 budget, there was an increase of $185,710, which is 4.91%.
Thank you. Now, I do want to go back for just a second. When you look at, it's just a comment for the public predominantly, but when you look at a lot of these contracted services on page 6 and page 7, and the preventative work that you're doing in your department, that's what helps us get to that reliability award that we get pretty much consistently every year, is being very heavy on the preventative maintenance. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Any questions for Tim regarding power plant? Okay, let's move on to power distribution, page 9.
All right, 5620, page 9. There's an on-call pay in there, which Natalie talked about that earlier. That's $10,400. I was actually on call. Most electric utilities have an on-call system. Where I came from, I was on call for 20-something years. And basically, you have a designated person that's on call from Monday after normal hours through the night, and then it stops the next day when you're at work, and then it starts back up and through the weekend. And basically, that person is basically dedicated that if they are called, they have to respond. Basically, they lose their life for the entire week. Basically, they can't go too far away, that type of thing. They can't have, drink and that type of thing. So there's a lot that goes into that, and I'm actually glad that they're starting that. I actually talked about this with other town administrators for years, and I'm glad to finally see it coming. So I appreciate it.
Hopefully it'll make us a little bit better and more prepared as an organization.
Well, like, for example, the way it works now, the police department calls me, and then I might have to go through 3 or 4 people before I can finally find somebody to come in and help. So by this way, you actually have a designated person for that. So, I'm going to jump down to contracted services. The big ticket item in that one, most of the other ones are pretty small items, is the NextGrid annual Wi-Fi and meter fee. Basically, that is a $20,000 hosting fee for the new AMI system. It's to host it on the cloud. They have to work behind the scenes to keep it operating, that type of thing, and then they work hand in hand with us. They'll notify us if they see an issue and then we can go out and check it, and then we can talk to them remotely to try to repair it, or they can repair it, from a remote distance away. You'll have that with any kind of AMI system, for example.
But that'll also allow ultimately, just like what we're doing with water, customers to be able to see their consumption and things like that.
Yep, when it's all up and running, and same thing with the customer portal, we're gonna make sure it's correct and it's working properly before it's released to the public. So it'll have a customer portal where they can see real-time usage on their meter. So for example, let's say it's, summertime, and they go to shut their air conditioning off, they can actually see it reduce their consumption right then. They'll be able to see it on the portal. So they can take their own initiative to, try to be more efficient and that type of thing, and reduce using so much power. So if you go over to page 10, the $25,000 for Tuckahoe boring services, that's a development reimbursement. Most of the boring services that are done by them, that were reimbursed through the developer, so that comes back to us. Then if you drop down to 5255, which is capital outlay equipment, I'll just run through this very quick. The half-ton pickup truck, that's a new vehicle. The reason why is over at the power plant, there was a Ford Ranger that was done away with 2 years ago, I believe. I think it was 2 years ago. And then we gave them one of our pickup trucks from distribution to the power plant. And they've been using that truck since then. And then we're running into not having enough vehicles at certain times where I have to borrow a vehicle from Jimmy or Jamie. Plus, when our guys go to training, they, for lineman school, meter school, they actually take a town vehicle with them. So I run into some cases where, I'm down one vehicle, plus I'm having to give one vehicle away for the guys to go to training. And then I have to go borrow a vehicle from Jamie or Jimmy. So that's why I'm looking to get the new pickup truck. Then the Altech bucket truck, that's a carryover. That truck is actually going to be delivered probably in the next month. I got a call the other day. It's been 2.5 years, I believe, since it was ordered. So that's going to be here. And then the Altech Digger Derrick, that's to replace a 1994 truck. And then the AMI meter system bond, that's $1 million. That's for the AMI system. And then the asset inventory tracking software. This is something I talked to Natalie about. It's a software program which Tyler, I believe.
We're going to look into Tyler and see if they can provide a platform for everybody, not just Tim's department, but water resources as well, that would basically track asset and inventory as a mechanism. So replacing under Tim's budget for right now, but potentially we will split the cost, or it would be allocated to customer service. It depends on how it's going to run. So this is just tentative, but this need to be in place. I think we talked about this several years ago. At the end of each fiscal year, I'll literally send an Excel spreadsheet and I tell them, go to the yard and count for me how many transformers and bolts and nuts and pipes you have, and report it back to me because we have to account for them. So that will allow us, if the invoice process in the finance department, if we purchase in, I'm just going to say example of 5 transformers. The Tyler technology does not right now, well, it's a manual, it will be probably on our end as well to market that it's part of the inventory. But then when Tim goes out and uses one transformer and installs it somewhere, it would let us know that we have 4, or if he's running out and we had a 0, he will know to order. Right now it's all pen and
Yeah, the way it is now, the guys will, use material out of the warehouse, and then they'll be down to like 1 or 2, and they walk in and lay it on Augie's desk. And they say, Augie, I need, we need 10 of these by, 2 days from now. Well, some of them you can't get for 3 months. This new asset management system, what it'll do is you have what's called mid, and max. So you have a minimum amount and a max amount. So when you get down, let's say you want to keep 20, on the shelf, it'll actually, you can set the mid, let's say it's 7. Once it hits 7, it'll throw a flag up, which tells you, okay, you need to go order these now. But the way it is now, sometimes we run out of material and we don't even know it till the very last piece. And then, during COVID, it was really bad. It's gotten a lot better now as far as delivery times. So it'll help us with, it also, you can do work orders, for example, for billing for developers. Let's say, just say housing development. This type of system, you could create a work order and then you could tie all the labor into it, the material, the vehicles, that type of thing. So it could track the entire cost, and then at the end of it, you just print it out and that's what you owe. So it'll help do that also.
It'd be nice if we can find something that works across all the funds.
Right.
Yep.
If not, then we're probably going to have to
Right.
outsource it.
Okay. All right, I'll pick back up. The backup generator for Schoolfield Street, that's the backup small generator. It sits outside that backs up our substation, the relay system that runs the substation. It will not carry the entire substation. It's just for the relay system that handles the substation. But anyway, that generator was, it's a 1989. That's how old it is. It's starting to have a lot of issues that are getting very costly. One of the things they're telling me right now that it needs is a new radiator. It's the same generator. It's out here behind Town Hall, and that radiator was almost $5,000. So it's at the point it needs to be replaced.
Can we save it for parts?
Yeah, yes, actually we can. They asked me about that, and I told them we wanted to keep it.
If we have the exact same thing here.
We have
let's
the
save
same
it for
exact
parts.
generator right here. So that's a good point to keep it, which I told them I wanted it. And then also the meter testing with the accessories, that's 14 grand. That's basically a device that's mandated by the Public Service Commission. We use it in the field for testing meters, which has to be observed by the customer. So, because when we test meters, it's got to be within 100%, 1% high or 1% low. That's what that equipment is for. Savage substation transformer, that's the carryover. That's 170,000. It's not the part of finding the contractor to do the work. It's the part of finding a mobile substation large enough to carry the town's load for 2 to 3 days. Because the substation would be down for that entire time period. It's the only substation we have. So I have to find a mobile substation to bring in, to basically take over carrying the town's load while the work's being done. So that's that part. And then single-phase transformers, that's 50,000. That's developer reimbursement. 3-phase enclosures, we do 1 or 2 of those a year. That's 30,000. 3-phase transformers, that's normally for commercial development, and then that's reimbursed by the developer. Underground primary and secondary, that could be commercial or residential, which that is normally reimbursed by the developer. Then if you go over to page 11, just big ticket items there, which aren't that big, is bucket truck safety testing. That's actually mandated. We have to have dielectric testing done on the vehicles. That's an annual thing. And then overall for that budget, 5620, there was a $244,690 increase, which is 7.95%.
Thank you. Any questions for Tim regarding power distribution?
My question is more general for electric.
Any questions for electric?
Can I do that in mind? Okay. Just really asking you to take your crystal ball out, because one of the things that I really have enjoyed is sending our customers the link to our website. It's updated every September with the price comparison.
Yep.
Because, for many years prior to your arrival, I believe, there was, our electric rates were a lot higher.
Yeah.
So with the metering and the upcoming rate study, because I'm a little skeptical on a rate study, I'm worried it's going to come back as. But
It needs to,
yeah, well, what is your expectation for the customers as far as what they're going to see with these, with the rate study and the metering?
Well, we had a meeting here, a council meeting, I don't know, a month or two back, and there was talk about power increases across the board for every utility. And that's because of transmission capacity charges. You're basically paying a premium price because what was going on is the coal-fired plants were being mandated to be shut down faster than renewable energy plants could be built. And they're held up because of, regulations, permitting, and that type of thing. So basically, you were shutting down the coal plants too fast without building the renewable energy sources quickly enough to make up the difference. So that's one of the increases that people were seeing. I think that, I believe Natalie saw it in her Delmarva power bill.
I just got mine yesterday.
It's a fixed amount, pass it on to residential and commercial. There is no warnings, buts, or discussions.
Right.
They just place them down, and I can tell you, commercial properties in Delmarva Power received, like my case is $2,600 per bill. We did not have that. But I think what the question was is, as a prediction, what would we expect during the study? The study is done to maintain the fund being financially solid and stable. Electric is very important, as we all know. Right now, as I mentioned a million times already, we're advancing too much from reserve. Electric does not have capital reserve built in, nor have any capital fee set aside that we collected for future capital projects. That's all regulated by Public Service Commission. So electric study is to recover the full cost of operational costs, and also have potential to do the capital project without going into the situation where we say, what if, or we have to borrow the money and then we pay the interest. Like we're doing in our condition for the AMI system, we have $1 million bond advancement right now. The AMI metering is to calculate and to assess the usage at the correct rate. The mechanical meters, just like water meters, they age in, they're slowing down, they're not calculated. Even though we purchase in the power and we're paying for the power, you can see the amount that we are paying is almost $3.2 million in purchase power costs that gets distributed. That's not necessarily that we're correctly billing back because of the devices in place. Also, we will have a lot more implemented with the AMI meters as outages or potential hazards, so that will also be assessed.
Yeah.
It's earlier to say whether we're going to see an increase in rates or a decrease in rates, but the rate should be correctly assessed and stated to recover the costs and the capital costs that build in.
That makes sense, and then that's why the metering, I guess, kind of what the mayor was referring to earlier on the water meter, and that if rates do go up, that the metering will ensure that the customers that are using the most see the appropriate increase, and
Yeah,
the customers who are using the less. Okay.
I can actually talk about that a little bit, and I'm sure Melissa is aware too. Every now and then we run across customers that should actually be a demand customer because they hit a threshold of 3,500 kWh twice in a 12-month period. The way it is now, you have to catch that on the billing cycle looking at it. So every now and then I'll get contacted by Michelle, hey, we need to change this customer over to a demand customer because they hit that threshold. With the new AMI system, they can actually set that in the system to actually throw up a flag if somebody goes over that 3,500. It'll actually notify them right then instead of trying to catch it later on within the billing process. So now you're getting that person in the right rate class that they should be in as far as fees and charges and like that. Just talking about the rate case study, the last study was done 2012, I believe.
That's when,
12,
that was the last.
And it was actually lowered in 2012. So you got to figure we haven't looked at our rates going on what, 12 years, 13 years. It's something that definitely needs to be done. When COVID hit, everything increased. Some of our transformers increased 200 to 300%. Well, that's never went down. It stayed the same. And you got to figure our rates have never changed. So we definitely need to look at the rates, what we should be charging. Also service calls, for example, reconnect fees. And that's all looked at during the rate case study.
And how much we charge for like the salaries associated with that.
That's correct. Yes.
Or salaries associated with like a developer coming in. Most of our stuff is arbitrarily low.
It is.
Now, the other side is, and it's an important distinction to make, is that when we talk about water, which includes water, sewer, stormwater, the mayor and council can activate or change those fees.
Yeah, we can.
Here. Electric, we can't. It's the Public Service Commission. We've been working for years to try and get deregulated from the Public Service Commission. Public Service Commission has a valuable role to play in private electric utilities. However, with a public utility like ours, we're like Chop Tank. The Chop Tank is member regulated. There's no reason why the 5 municipal electric utilities should not be member regulated either. Our members are the citizens, and if we get it wrong, they'll let us know, don't worry. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
all right, any other questions for Tim or Natalie regarding the electric fund?
That's not a question. I think I mentioned this a couple of meetings ago. I would just be still curious to see if there's a way you can break it down to if what we save when we generate, like when we peak shave, what we save. If you could if there's a way to put a monetary value.
There
to
is.
that.
It's about 600,000 a year.
Okay.
That's what we save the ratepayers.
And then,
it's
all right.
a mandatory generation.
Yeah, that's peak shaving with our generation. It actually I believe it saves it through the PCA charge.
It's get recovered through, so, not to confuse anybody, the saving from generation goes right back to the grid. It's not that we are to keep those amounts of monies in the bank and save it for later. That's becoming part of, or offset, or a credit, whichever you want to call it, against what we pay when we purchase the power. And the purchase power cost gets into the calculation of monthly rate that gets approved by Public Service Commission. So the more we peak shave, the more we generate, the more we push back to the grid, the more credit we get when we buy the power, the less of the rate becomes.
Basically, what you're doing is when you're peak shaving, let's say, for example, let's say the town's load in the winter is 10 megawatts, okay? If you were to not peak shave, you would be paying the entire transmission capacity charges that were charged by Delmarva Power to bring that power across their grid to get it to us. It doesn't come from Delmarva Power, it comes from out west, but it travels through the grid. But Delmarva Power charges us what's called transmission capacity charges. So let's say your demand is 10 megawatts. You would pay the entire cost for the transmission capacity charges. But if we peak shave at 5 megawatts, you're only paying transmission capacity charges for 5 megawatts versus 10 megawatts. So you cut that cost in half right there when you did that. And overall, it saves the ratepayers anywhere between like 500 to 600,000 a year.
And what does that break down to kilowatt hour? 3
That I don't
cents, 2
know off the
cents?
top of my head. That's a lot. That's a lot.
Well, we could get that.
It would be nice
I
to
can
know
get
to
it.
tell the residents, hey, because we do this, you're saving X on the bill.
Yeah, that's why our rates are lower than Delmarva Power and
Right.
Choptank. Yeah, that's why.
Right, and I think that Yeah, I mean, and I think that's a good idea as well, because I think when you say around 600,000 a year.
It fluctuates.
Yeah, I know, and I'm kind of, that's why I'm guessing that, the 23 activity was 2.9, and then 24 was 3, and then so far we were at almost to 2.2.
Right.
So, well, not obviously, but I'm anticipating that this 3.1 purchase power, after everything goes, would go down. So,
Not necessarily.
No.
So,
It depends each year too basically on the weather and the
The weather
temperature.
yeah.
has a huge.
well, right, because then you wouldn't have to peak.
Yeah, there's some years we only run 5 times. And then there's some years we run 22 times.
Most
So-
years we've never run in the winter, but we have.
We have,
In the
2019, I believe.
Yeah.
That's 15.
Yeah.
I'd still like, if possible, to get some sort of,
I can get it.
And it also depends on customer participation. That's why we send out the tweak the peak.
Yeah, we have what's called load reduction and tweak the peak. Load reduction is at the substation level. We actually lower the output by 2%, basically like 4 to 5 volts, which we're mandated to be between 114 and 126 volts. So we can lower it all the way down to say 115 volts or 116 volts. By doing that, you're lowering your purchase power by 2% annually. So that also helps against the purchase power amount that we're buying. And then we also do tweak the peak, which the customer on their end, might shut their air conditioning off, not wash clothes during that certain time, certain things they can do to also help.
Now that we have the AMI meters coming in, when we do explore the rate study side of things, we should see if there's a way. I know some
Yep.
utilities provide that savings to the customer a little bit to incentivize the conservation.
Yeah,
We should explore that possibility as well.
okay.
I mean, the more that we can reduce, I think the more we can overall save for the customer. All right, so we'll start with comments from the council. We'll start with this side. Jack, you want to kick us off?
well, since this is the finishing up the utility budget side, of looking at it as a whole, I still, and I've emailed some folks, but I still want to say in public that I think overall it's a very solid budget. I know that the concerns about reserves and whatnot are still there, but I think overall, there's a lot of good things in here. There's good capital things, and there's carry forwards, which is all good. And I had written out this entire little spiel I was going to give tonight, but a lot of the questions or things I was going to say in here have been kind of answered. So lets me know that I'm on the right track with you all. But it's interesting as well, I think, and important that we're looking at these studies or we're looking to look into studies for our utilities to not forget about stormwater somehow, to, not saying we need to do a study for it right now, but I do think and still stand by that we need to take a holistic look at that utility as well and go from there and see what we can do. But yeah, I think good work, everybody. Thank you, Natalie and crew, for answering questions and developing, and Mayor and Mary and administration.
They do the hard work.
And Kelsey, and everybody. Thank you, everybody, yes, for being the boots on the ground, if you will, on this. And it's really appreciated. So thank you.
Steve?
I'm happy to be that tonight.
Jack?
Just want to remind everybody that all the information regarding the budget, both general fund and utility funds, is on the website, the town website. Encourage you to look it over, and if you have any questions, contact any council member or the mayor's office to get your answers. Be helpful.
And I would like to see more public come into the meetings, asking questions, reading the reports. So whatever possible done, because after all, this is the community budget. We're public servants, and in the past, I have noticed people actually participated, but somehow the participation decreased. I'm not saying that people are not interested. I'm thinking that maybe we should do something to put a carrot to come, to make people to come and ask questions here with us at the meetings, discuss it.
And we're here to help.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a great suggestion, Natalie. I don't know what that carrot could be. I'm speaking right now. I don't know what that carrot.
If it asks for us to go to a different
So for the
location,
record.
people don't
I
like
know
to
you.
come up here, we can relocate. Maybe we can do shorter meetings, maybe we can discuss half of the fund, a couple departments or a department of interest. If we can discuss something outside of the mayor council settings. Maybe some people are not comfortable coming to the meeting settings. If we could do, I don't know, walk and talk about budget on the street in the morning.
That is so cute. Talking about budget.
Park and budget on the bench, I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think the hard part too is that when we have our meeting, a lot of people are at home either winding down from their day or taking care of their families or whatever it is. Important, but also this is the spending of your money.
Yeah.
So that's also
Yes.
important. But maybe trying to figure out how we can engage the public through comment. I know some other municipalities that do that virtually, allowing people to ask some questions and have that dialogue. Something that we can consider, but we just have to have, if we're gonna open it up, we have to have the ability to respond.
I have ton of ideas from past conferences, especially Jeff Boyd. It was the cutest thing ever. It was a Lego blocks. Kelsey and I talk about it, that one municipality created how to build a budget from Lego blocks.
Oh, yeah,
But
you showed me that.
it
was
requires
real
a
good.
lot. It's really cute. It's very informative and very easy to follow and understand. It requires outsourcing, obviously. We don't have the power, but I think we should look into something. My goal is to have GFOA a word for the budget, but again, I need so many more mini us to be created to do that. But we should be going towards some shorter version maybe of a budget or citizen report, Mr. Warris.
We talked about that.
That would be produced after the budget, kind of summarizing more pictures, less numbers, easier to understand.
I agree. Maybe we could
Like
give it,
every month, I don't know, 10 or 15 days longer, that would probably help as well.
very true. Councilmember Nichols, anything else?
No,
Okay.
no, but I love the ideas, and I think that those are definitely, I think that they would be greatly appreciated. A lot of folks are saying little things like, I wish I understood more, I wish I knew more, could you tell? Yeah, so having that formulated some,
This is interesting, yeah. In Dean's absence, I'll chime in now.
Yeah, you want to start going, Mike?
I think
Got seniority.
that it's really interesting. I think the thing that, I think once its tax rate is heard, whether it's flat, up, down, if it's flat, the interest level isn't as high. And I don't know how we get around that. You know, you all, some of you that were here, you know, but the budget hearing had to be moved out of this building because of the massive tax increase that was proposed. So, but I don't think, but I'm on board with it because it shouldn't always just be that, you know, it's just because of, you know, a flat tax rate is only going to increase my taxes a little tiny bit. But it has to go beyond that. I don't know how it is. If you have an idea, that to me is what I think what happens. I think people hear, okay, flat tax rate, fees aren't proposed to go up a lot, that the interest kind of wanes because they're like, okay,
Yeah, they're doing their job.
household
but
price.
if you're staying involved the entire through the entire
Yeah.
process, when the suggestion of an increase comes up, you're like, I saw that coming, I see.
Understand it a little
Yeah, I
better. You have an
understand the
idea?
pieces.
No,
Yeah.
I was being a little bit of, sarcastic
Oh.
a moment, but you're absolutely right. When people see something that is increased and they participate, it shouldn't be that. It should be the same idea about how people would like to participate in the budget process. Should be a process to ask people, how would you like to participate in the budget process, first of all, and then for us to implement that. Me saying we should create a citizen report, maybe nobody likes the citizen report.
Well, the big
Maybe
word
they
is
want to
hard
meet
for
in
all of
person,
us to
yes.
swallow.
But yes, I agree, and this is always a concern of mine that we talk about here. It's obviously all transformed to the
We
public.
should also thank Mary Hedlusky for being here with us as the
Yes.
only citizen
We
that
need
actually
to-
sat through it, so thank you.
We need to have more people comment and expressing and participating.
Yeah.
But the hard part is too, I mean, it's confusing. I mean, if you don't know what you're looking at, think about the report that we have in front of us this evening, it's 45 pages. That's just the enterprise funds.
Yeah.
It doesn't even include the general fund. So, yeah, it's definitely an onion, it's something.
Yeah,
But-
it is, and it can't be simplified. It can't be distilled down too far, because then it's not really showing you what it needs to show.
But I think that the takeaways are that the town of Berlin is doing well in many respects, but we aren't without our headwinds. And we've talked about some of those tonight. We've talked about some of those with our pulls from reserves that are in the general fund too. So none of these budgets are like, wow, we're doing great. I saw something from the Baltimore City from the mayor, where the mayor's looking to lower the tax rate in 2028. We're not there. I mean, we can't do something like that because we're not even hitting the mark on some of the things that we're after here. So
I think what you can say is the needs keep increasing and the costs keep increasing.
correct.
So,
We've got a lot of pressures, and
That
we're
was
not
the
immune.
comment section.
And it's exactly, it's-
What's that?
What you just read in.
No, he's.
That had to be in the comment section. I'm sorry.
Oh,
So now I don't want to, we can talk about that, but we're not there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The town of Berlin, we're not raising taxes. I don't think there's an appetite up here to do that this year. But there still are some very important components of this budget that do require citizen input.
Absolutely, and uniqueness of the town in general, I brag, and I will brag again, that I always point out that we are not like others, even though we're a small municipality, but you have all the utilities. You have a well-developed, at this point, stormwater that is going on. We are not discharging to watersheds, we're spraying on the forestry. This is something unusual, and when I talk about this with other municipalities at the conferences, at the meetings, everybody's just like, wow. The population of 5,000 receiving every single service and generating the power and having their own wells and treating the water and not discharging to the watersheds and spraying into the forest that gets harvested and gets repurposed. I mean, that's a lot.
It is. It is, but I mean, you bring that up, and I'll use this as my comment, and I'll be done. But when we talk about that, right, and you look at the spray site, the cost of doing that it's not cheap. You know what I mean? You're looking at over $500,000 just to be able to do something like that. I'm sure some of those costs would be shared if we were discharging into Bottle Branch. But we're doing something that's better, and it's the right thing to do for everybody, really. Whether you live and just play in the water, whether you get your livelihood from it, whatever the case may be. But it comes at a cost, and it's not cheap.
And I forgot Public Works, sorry, Jimmy.
All right, let's take a motion to adjourn.
motion.
So I have a motion by Councilmember Nerd, second by Councilmember Orris, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
And not only come the fall, we're gonna hit that report.
I will review your report. Thank you.
Be corrected.